Mind is a horror/drama series written by me. It follows many different characters that go through horrible conflicts revolving around their sanity, as well as the many flaws that society presents towards them. The majority of the storyline in Season 1 will take place in a small town of Loveland, Ohio. Melissa Smith, the main character, daughter of Thomas and Sarah Smith. Only 9 years old, but going on 10 within the narrative. She goes through a lot of mental trouble after losing someone close to her. She must resort to smoking cigarettes just to deal with her grieving and everyday anxiety. She has a lot of self-esteem issues and often wonders why she even exists in the first place if all she does is screw things up for both her and her family. Thomas Smith, father of the Smith family, a troubled man that struggles a lot with trying to keep his family afloat in a middle-class society. He works as an office worker or a businessman in order to keep his family in good wealth, despite not liking his job all that much. After losing someone close to him and his wife, he becomes increasingly frustrated and depressed with his everyday job and decides to leave it when he is offered a quote-unquote better job in the town of Loveland, which is what causes him and his family to move there in the first place. Throughout the narrative, he is very much concerned about his daughter Melissa's mental health, but unfortunately becomes a little bit too overprotective of her later on. Sarah Smith, the mother of the family who has undergone many traumatic experiences in her past. She was abused and constantly locked away in her room closet as a kid by her horrible parents. As a result of this, she became a raging alcoholic into adulthood, who constantly drinks herself silly to deal with her trauma. She worked as a bartender for a local restaurant, and that is how she ended up meeting Thomas in the first place. Unfortunately, she eventually got fired due to various circumstances with her drinking habits and her, PTSD. Once they married and had a kid, she was going to try and set to sober herself up and better herself as a mother. But unfortunately, she still ends up getting too drunk after her and Thomas celebrate a promotion at his workspace, and they end up drunkenly banging each other and having another kid in the process. Benjamin Finelson, a nerdy blonde kid who befriends Melissa when they meet each other at the elementary school the Smiths move near. He is an optimistic kid who likes having fun playing video games and being adventurous with his past friends. Unfortunately for Ben, him and his family had to move out of their neighborhood due to a mold infestation in their house, and in doing so, having to leave all of his past friends behind. Throughout the narrative, he makes a few questionable decisions that ultimately affects how Melissa feels about him, even if he is shown to truly care about her well-being more than anyone else around her. Patricia McKenzie, a young baker woman who runs a local bakery within the town of Loveland. She is someone who just happens to have amassed a cult following beneath her bakery. She acts very nice towards everyone around her and manages to get to know them very well. So well, in fact, that they often join her in helping to kill specific people that aren't very nice towards her and them. She must cut out people's hearts and eat them in order to maintain her power as part of a satanic curse that she was given as an 18-year-old. After managing to kill both of her abusive and crazy parents, whilst making it look like they died fatally in a car accident, she takes their money and inherits it to create her bakery home in the town of Loveland. She also uses her wealth and wits to create a series of tunnels that would lead to where she would perform her rituals underneath the forest there in Loveland. Everyone who she recruits into her cult are essentially people who have been chewed up and spat out by society as a whole. This is ultimately how she gets people on her side, by getting inside their heads and exposing their hatred towards the ones who have wronged them. This also helps her get away with her many murders as she stretches her cult just beyond with the people within Loveland, as police officers end up being corrupted by her ideals as well. All this happens while she makes people like Melissa and Benjamin smile with her wonderful baking skills. In short, a monster in plain sight. Richard Foreman is a former police officer that unfortunately lost his job due to various tragic circumstances. In the narrative, he starts out basically suicidal due to being both unemployed and isolated from both his wife Hannah and his troubled son Todd. However, by some stretch of luck involving the Smith family, he manages to pull himself together to keep going and eventually figure out certain disappearances that are occurring in the town of Loveland. Laura Thompson, a snobby 10-year-old girl who likes to bully anyone who simply gets in her way. Both her and her two friends Butch and Larry like to cause quite a bit of trouble by either playing childish pranks on the many kids in the town, or practically getting into big fights with the likes of Melissa and Benjamin. And Earl Morris, a corrupt chief police officer who at one point decided he was tired of his nagging wife's behavior, and decided to help end her life via sacrificing it to Patricia. He then helps his new lover out by keeping her cult in secret, by cutting off any means of people finding her tunnels within the huge forest in Loveland. And that's it. That's what I got so far. There is one character I've left out, but I'd rather not mention who she is, as it would spoil things later on in the story. Well, let me know what you think of all this in the comments, and whatever else stuff could be added. Thank you, have a good night.